Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this evening's edition of the news. I hope you are all doing well. I hope everybody's feeling okay, and I hope you've reached the middle of your week in one piece. I certainly have. It's been quite an eventful one hitherto. That's really one of the reasons why I'm bringing this to you in the first place. So, without further ado, I'd like to just offer a quick recap on what happened yesterday. Yesterday we had the first anniversary of the Flat Earth Social in Bournemouth. Started out in Swanage a year ago, and then Ian and Scott decided to have it moved closer to, I say closer from whose perspective, but they had it moved to Bournemouth, of course. From my perspective, it was closer. And since then, of course, anybody who's followed my posts on Facebook, I do sometimes take a photo while I'm there and just post it there and then, often in the middle of the meetup, just to show you the resonance. Yesterday, I believe there were over 65 people there. That is some turnout. It really is. And the fascinating thing about this, and I've kind of been alluding to this point for a while now, and it's something that I noticed very clearly last night, was the, just checking the clock, was the willingness, not just the willingness, but it kind of automatically went off into so many different types of conversations. And it became very, very clear that it is all so connected and interwoven with each other, the whole lot. And, hence we say it's the biggest lie, because once you've cracked the realization that actually just because you've been told stuff by authorities doesn't mean to say you can't stop, think, and question them. It's quite an amazing thing when you gather a load of people together who, with time, have organically got to know each other and all that sort of stuff. And by the way, they're a very, very welcoming crowd. So anybody who's new wants to pop along for the next one, you'll always be made to feel welcome. Always. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? Doesn't matter at all. Nothing matters when you go there. You go there, the only requirement is to have an open mind, I would suggest. Don't be going in there provoking people, but apart from that, I put it in a post on Facebook yesterday. You feel like you can talk about anything. You don't feel restricted in your thoughts less, but what you can hear, what you can say. Walking on eggshells, being all diplomatic and tactical about your conversations and all that sort of nonsense. But a lot of us do that during the course of our everyday lives, just to get by. So, in a very dramatic way, I'm just highlighting how beneficial, certainly from my perspective and for me personally, this sort of event is. And I'm definitely not the only person who feels like that. I can say that for sure. Guaranteed there'll be plenty of people who weren't there last night who feel exactly like that. Which is why, I don't have the biggest platform in the world. I don't reach many people with my videos. Actually, my channel's actually taken a hit. I mean, I'm not even, I don't even have 600 subscribers. But at the end of the day, it's getting that message out that it's the issue, So do pass it on. I will be posting this on Facebook and on Instagram if it takes it too, as well. But yeah, the Flat Earth meet up, or the Flat Earth Social yesterday, was an absolute blast. We had Dave Murphy doing some presenting. We had, it was a ticket event, so it was £15 a head, but you had your food as well, which was absolutely delicious. I was last, as always. I mentioned this to a couple of friends, actually, saying this to Martin earlier, that I was last to the buffet on my own wedding. I just don't queue up for stuff like that. I don't know what it is, but I just rather let everybody else just go and do whatever they do. And but I was sat with people talking the whole time, so it wasn't like I was sitting there trying to, claim the moral high ground. I won't rush for food. No. It just worked out nicely. I'm never really in a rush for stuff like that. But when I did get around to eating, it was absolutely delicious. So a big shout out, most certainly, to the Pavilion Arms. And I've got to say, I had a couple of conversations with a couple of members of their staff yesterday as well. Very open-minded, one of them who I spoke to straight away said, well, I always sort of questioned what I was told about our, immediate, vicinity, if you like, as well. So she was quite open to hear, not necessarily what was being presented, because the topic there was veering off on a different topic, the presentation, but amongst people. I was stood next to her at one point while I was getting my food, and Dave Murphy was presenting, and I was chatting to her, this lady who worked there, a little bit about, well, what is irrefutable, so just one or two things. And and that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's about planting seeds. That's what we've always been saying. I understand you're not going to change the world, but I don't actually believe you can't. Yeah, I think you can. But not like how people think. You know what I mean? We're not talking about tearing down systems and all that sort of stuff. That's not what anybody's talking about. But it's about here, and it's about here. And unfortunately, we've been born into a world that puts many, many things in place to prevent here and here from connecting. And initiatives like that, or events like that, help find our way back to that natural process, because there is a concerted effort to dumb down society. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Why the push for digital stuff that heavily? Why would you do that? Why are you so keen on taking cash out of our society? I mean, every little step diminishes social interaction, doesn't it? Until eventually you have none left. You'll be forever just communicating with bots. Lovely future, eh? So, things like this keep that going, those sorts of things going. And, although it's flat earth social, we discuss all sorts of things there. It's a very, very open-minded group of people, and I enjoy it there a lot. For me, it's very, very beneficial. It's, those things money can't buy. Those few hours of solace to that level, and I find myself, waffling away, rambling away on stuff, but that's just the enthusiasm, and you can feel it there amongst a lot of people, and it's good. So anybody who really can get round to our next one, which will be it's the last Tuesday of every month, then please do come along. I do believe for the next one, Mark Devlin is coming to present, if the word around a campfire was received correctly by me. So, but either way, but I do believe it is him. So, do come along. And I'd like to meet up with you and have a chat and stuff like that. I'm always in for meeting new people, and, you'll soon know whether you, to use a mainstream word, gravitate to each other or not. But you generally do in an environment like that. There's no reason or need to judge, because that's part of the problem, isn't it? But anyway, so yeah, that was absolutely fantastic. Martin Liedke graced us with his presence as well yesterday. That was great, and a nice little catch up, because we bumped into him in the Global Eye Tour last year when we went around England and Wales to do a bit of talking about what went down in the last few years and all the rest of it. But yeah, so it was great to see Martin. Nora came over from Ireland. Adam came down from Newcastle. So shout out to you, Adam, if you're watching this video. Nice to meet you, sir. Yeah, we had a nice long conversation yesterday, and there were lots of these conversations going on well into the night. I didn't get home till 1:30, I don't think. It was 1:45, if I can even talk correctly, in the morning. Time just whizzed by. So we are on the right track when we're doing things like that, most definitely. So yeah, and big shout out, of course, to Ian Leahy and to Scott, who, without whom none of this would be possible. It's always good when things like this are organised correctly and all the rest of it. And of course, it's that welcoming atmosphere as well, So it was great, honestly. More of the same, please. It will always find my support, no doubt about that. And if we can get even more stuff like that going, then I'm there. If anybody wants me to lend a hand somewhere, if I can fit it in, definitely. So moving on swiftly, and if I've forgotten anybody in that, I do apologise. There is no malice on my part. Definitely not. Moving on swiftly, on Saturday, this coming Saturday, there will be Vigil in Bournemouth Gardens. It will be our second one. The first one was amazing because we had some very, very good feedback, live feedback, and also after the fact. I got some phone calls and also some emails asking me about one or two things, and it was just good to be, again, similar sort of thing in an environment. I think that's the biggest problem, isn't it? Society that we have in general is we always feel like we need to have our guard up. We always feel like we can't really talk openly about what's on our mind, which is why we have so many mental health issues in the first place. There is no real cathartic process in any of it because you're always in a controlled environment of some sort, ran by somebody, overseen by somebody, whatever. There's nothing natural about that. So the only other option you've got is to be amongst people who are kind of on that page where you can then be like that and talk about things. And so similarly to the Flat Earth Social, so it will be at the Vigil this Saturday at 1400 hours in Bournemouth Gardens. And I still to this day forget whether it's upper or lower, but it's certainly the town hall end of the gardens, or is it I can't remember now. But anyway, you'll see us there. There'll be banners up. There'll be a couple of tables there. Again, there'll be people there who'll be welcoming, and it will be we'll just be there. Nobody's going to be in anybody's face. Nobody's going to be standing on soapboxes, preaching, none of that nonsense. It will be a pure community interaction because at the end of the day, like I keep saying, we are all in this together. This affects every single one of us right here, right now. Some might not be so aware, but it does. Another conversation we had last night at the Flat Earth Social. Yeah, all connected. But anyway, that will take place at 2 o'clock. I'll be meeting with a couple of people beforehand, obviously, so we can get a few things lined up and then set up. I'm hoping for some good weather. I don't think the forecast looks great, but then again, we are in England and you never know. If it's really pouring down, we probably won't do it because we noticed today when I met a few friends, there was a little bit of flat earth. I nearly said flat earth socialism. I was thinking of flat earth social and activism, but we did a bit of flat earth activism today in the park in Bournemouth Gardens. Trinity Fall, Dave Mannell, Martin Liedker, Nora was there, I was there, and who else was there? I may have forgotten. Zizi, obviously, Dave and Andrea's kid were there, and Andrea was there. And again, we had some good people coming. What I say, coming, they walked right past there. But what we did notice was that as soon as the weather dropped a little bit, the footfall diminished to a point where it's not even worth standing there. You're just going to get wet just stood around. You know, the only living beings then flying around would be herring gulls, and they're not too interested in that really. So yeah, so weather permitting, that will be this Saturday, and I'm looking forward to that as well. I have put a couple of videos out recently, but they've not really had it's not gone out as far as I wanted to, or not as many people have seen them as I wanted them to. I think there's definitely a concerted effort to keep messages going out, and it's happened since I looked into the whole Paul Cook situation, which was a few months ago now. From that moment on, my channel has definitely had restrictions imposed upon it, which is why I post it also on Facebook and Instagram if it takes it. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Very odd. There you go. That was one heck of a tangent from the Vigil on Saturday, wasn't it? And apart from that, deep breath, nothing else really to write home about. I was just looking here on my notes because I did write a couple of notes to see if there was anything else. No, not really. I did mention about the staff members, or one or two of them being particularly interested in what we were talking about at the social. But I also mentioned about conversations having with other people, and I had conversations outside the front of the hotel with a lady and her family who are based in Shanghai in China. And of course, we were talking about how things go down there in terms of, how do they pay for stuff? What is it like with general sort of movement, the strictness of the laws, the imposing of those laws and all the rest of it. And it was very, very, very fascinating. I mean, we talk here about worrying about cash being taken out of society. She told me that every single transaction she does is just via 2 apps. That's it. She doesn't handle cash at all in China. I'm sat there thinking, blimey, really? Not good. And a lot of other things that were quite the insight. And yeah, not how you think, not how the news certainly portray it or our Western media does, but I mean, all medias are all hooked up to the same power anyway. But yeah, it was just interesting to see how it is on ground level there in China. Very interesting. So I spent quite a while chatting with them. Yeah, and that's what happens at those sorts of places when you have those sorts of events. If you're willing to talk and you're open-minded, then those conversations happen, and they're great. Sometimes it's, it can get a little bit close to the knuckle because people, they have their opinions and they have their, well, let's say they've spent many, many years believing in certain things or well, yeah, just believing. It's not knowledge, is it? Knowledge is not belief. Belief is the absence of knowledge, I would say. That even sounds like a quote from someone, but I really didn't quote anybody there. Anyway, before I go off on too much of a tangent, that is really essentially what I wanted to bring to you. A great flat earth social yesterday in Bournemouth, and hopefully a good vigil or even a vigil to come this coming Saturday in Bournemouth Gardens at 2:00. So long may these things continue, and long may it gain more and more traction and gain more and more interest, because that's what's happening with the Flat Earth Social, most definitely. It's an ace meetup. I think I'm paraphrasing myself now, but I do believe I made a comment somewhere on Facebook where I believed it was probably the greatest meetup on our realm. I don't think that's overstated. I don't think that's, yeah. So there we have it. Larry is happy. He's in on the act. So what can I say? That makes me happy. And, my thinking ape over my right shoulder, he's still pondering that globe. What can you do? What can you do? On that note, thank you for looking in. If you're not seeing this on YouTube, it's probably because you haven't been notified or whatever. So you'll probably now be seeing it on Facebook. And if you've seen it on Facebook, you may have already seen it on YouTube as well, and not FoodTube, which is what I nearly said. Okie dokie. So on that note, for the third time, have a good one. Have a good rest of your week. Hopefully see you on the vigil on Saturday. That would be fantastic. You'll find me there. You'll find plenty of people there. So until then, I'll see some of you soon. And the rest of you, well, at some point. Take care and bye for now.